DGen Nation fam, what is up? What is happening? Ryan Williams here. You can find me on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W, and I'm coming at you in week 11 with the TFA DFS week 11 top low owned plays. Thanks so much for rocking with us all year. Subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, it's the Fantasy Authority. Make sure you subscribe there. Like the video if you like the content. Comment on it if you think that my plays are not hitting at the rate that you'd like to see them hit at, or maybe they are. Maybe they are hitting for you guys, as we've had some good plays over the year so far, and maybe they're helping you win money. But I digress. Let's get into this week 11 slate. It's a fun slate. There's going to be massive chalk this week with the Taysom Hill news, Dalvin Cook in the position at home against Dallas there, and just so many leverage plays I feel like on this slate to get into that you really can open things up for you, especially when we're talking about tournaments and multi-fields, big fields where you're 10,000 plus people that you need to defeat. You have to get a little bit off of the grain, off of the foundation there. So let's get into these plays starting at quarterback. Let's talk about Deshawn Watson first at the top, 6,500 on DraftKings, 7,700 on FanDuel. And I think it's incredibly great value on FanDuel there when you're talking about he's the 7th highest priced quarterback. And with the rushing upside that he offers, 55 rushing yards in the past 5 games. And he's been in some, weird game scripts as of late with the weather and whatnot. The Houston Texans has been incredible. And you're looking, without David Johnson, Duke Johnson's back there, and he offers some pass catching upside, which allows them to pass even more. And you're looking at this game against New England Patriots. If Cam and co are able to take advantage on the run against this porous Houston Texans run defense, and put up points, that sets up well for Deshaun Watson on the other end. Now, I think Stephon Gilmore is going to play here. I've seen, as we're recording this on Saturday, I've seen some traction there about him playing that could limit, Will Fuller as a big play upside there. But Brandon Cook's still out there, and Deshaun just really matchup proof. I just love him at this price if he's going under the radar. And the second quarterback that I want to talk about is a little weird. We talked about this on the DGen Nation pod. Make sure you're checking out DGen Nation pod on Twitter. You can follow along there and get the podcast. You can get the stream from YouTube as well, but you can get the podcast on your podcasting software. We talked about Andy Dalton a little bit at length, and he's actually our show quarterback for our build this week on DraftKings, and he's 5,300 there, 6,900 on FanDuel. That's a little bit tough to talk about, but at 5,300 on DraftKings, he really opens up things for you and allows you to do a lot with your builds. And Joe Burrow, I'm not sure where his ownership will lie come Sunday, but he was a popular play, a popular cheap play that people were on this week. I mean, Taysom Hill being there in New Orleans in a matchup that people want to target and really play him, he's going to be extremely popular. And so, and maybe even Alex Smith too in this range. And you're looking at this, and this Vikings defense, they've been okay since the week 7 bye at kind of limiting production on the other side. And really that starts with Dalvin Cook, right? Dalvin Cook has been able to kind of take advantage of games and take advantage of good run situations outside of the Bears last week. And he was still able to put up 90 yards. But before that, he had, gashed the Packers, and he had 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in another matchup, I believe. And so you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, so if the Cowboys fall down, they're getting Andy Dalton back. They've had to deal with the likes of whoever their backup was, I can't think of his name, and Gilbert. Just really, not guys who are able to, keep up with the score. But Andy Dalton here, he has a chance. I mean, the Arizona game that they played in, kind of got away from them there at the end. But you're looking at the weapons with Cooper, Gallup, Lamb. These guys are just so explosive, and this Minnesota secondary is nothing that you should be afraid of. And so he has a chance, I think, to fall into 20 DraftKings points. Granted, he can get some touchdowns there. So I really like Andy Dalton, I think, as a leverage play, because I really like getting to Cooper at his price at 5,400 on DraftKings, Lamb at 5,000 on DraftKings, just way too cheap. Gallup even at 37, just way too cheap. Really like Andy Dalton. Let's move it along here. Talk about some running back plays. Derrick Henry comes to mind here at the top. 8,000 on DraftKings, 8,200 on FanDuel. FanDuel it's just crazy, right? You're looking at the leverage of him, playing him at 8,200 when Dalvin Cook is 10,500. $10,500 of your salary there, and you can get Henry at 8.2. He's been disappointing in a little bit, but you look at this matchup here against Baltimore. For one, the last time that these teams saw each other in the playoffs there, and the surprise win from the Titans, he smashed them 200 yards, and I believe their defense was fully healthy. New England just put up 150 total rushing yards on the ground against them, and now you're looking at they're missing their lineman in Williams, missing a lineman in Calais Campbell, and they're allowing 5.5 yards per carry. So on FanDuel, where you're not really, it's half-point PPR, so pass catching backs, lose a little bit of value there, and touchdowns really are king as they carry weight. And if Henry's able to get into the end zone twice here in this game, we know he has a huge red zone role there. He's tied for the most attempts with Gurley at 41 inside the 20, second most attempts inside the 5. I mean, this really just shapes up for him to kind of pay off, and nobody is on Derrick Henry. I mean, he's disappointed so many people before, and I really like getting Derrick Henry when nobody else is on him. We've talked about that on the DJ Nation pod too. So Derrick Henry, especially on FanDuel, love getting some exposure to him. Let's talk about another guy who's been disappointing, Mike Davis. 6,800 on DraftKings, 8,200 on FanDuel. I have to laugh because Mike Davis was all the talk last week, coming in at 4,000 on DraftKings. Egregiously mispriced. Somebody made a mistake, and you could tell that because on the early-only slate last week, he was 6,700. And, a tough matchup against Tampa Bay last week, only scoring 8 DraftKings points, I believe, or just about 8 DraftKings points. And it has really, been disappointing as of late. 4 games in a row under 10 DraftKings points, I think right around 9 there. But what a great matchup to kind of have a get-right spot here. No Christian McCaffrey once again. Probably, one of the last times that we can get Mike Davis in a good matchup like this. And the Lions have been obliterated by running backs. You're looking at them allowing 30 fantasy points to the running back position. It's crazy. They're facing the 8th most running back targets there. And Teddy Bridgewater, let's talk about that. Teddy Bridgewater has a chance to play. He has not been officially rolled out yet. It could be the Walker kid coming in, that former XFL guy who's playing, which maybe they lean on the run a little bit more because that's the way you can take advantage on Detroit. But even if Bridgewater's out there, I mean, he really has a chance to kind of explode at this price tag. Again, 6,800 on DraftKings. I think he's an ultimate leverage play when you're looking at him in that range. And then another guy in that range too to pair up with. I really think it's tough. And also on the other side, no Kenny Golladay, no Danny Amendola, no DeAndre Swift. Detroit might be in trouble sustaining drives here, so that could just up the opportunities that Mike Davis has here. Believe home favorite, so this is just shaping up to be a good spot. And another leverage play I feel like at the running back position here is Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders comes in at 6,900 on DraftKings, 7,700 on FanDuel. And I talked about Miles Sanders last week, and it didn't really work out in the way that we had hoped. But you look at last week, coming off an injury, still saw 20 opportunities. And no Myles Garrett on the other side here for Cleveland. Now, Miles Sanders leads the league in yards per carry, has had solid strings of production against tough run defense in Baltimore and the Steelers, putting up some good yards. He's been very unlucky this season. We saw it last week. I mean, he only, 5 snaps to Corey Clement and Boston Scott total. 5 snaps total to them, and they both scored 2 touchdowns. It just makes no sense. He was able to salvage a little bit, getting a 2-point conversion score there after one of the scores, I believe. But, Miles Sanders, he's just so great. I just love the guy. And I don't want to say he's mispriced, but he comes in at a very fair price this week on DraftKings and both FanDuel too at 7,700. 2 more running backs that I want to touch on here. Let's start with Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage is 5,200 on DraftKings, 5,800 on FanDuel. And Kalen Ballage, I can't believe we're talking about him, but yet here we are. He's seeing bell cow usage for the Chargers. Justin Jackson on IR, Tremaine Pope not really doing much. Joshua Kelly not really doing much. And he's the running back 26 at his price on FanDuel. Just a great play there. You're talking about leverage off of Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen, who I like them both. I think they're in a fantastic matchup here against the Jets. But you're looking at 9.5 home favorite against the Jets, and I mean, what's not to like there? I mean, a lot to like. The Jets are allowing the 7th most DraftKings points, 7th most FanDuel points to running backs there. I just really like getting Kalen Ballage. Saw 30 opportunities last week. He's just been a bell cow back, and at this price tag, when you can get a bell cow back, you gotta love that. Adrian Peterson is the last running back I want to talk about here. He's 4,000 on DraftKings, 5,100 on FanDuel, and so you're looking at it, it's 4,500 minimum on FanDuel, so he's $600 over that. I guess I could see myself playing him, but the bare minimum on DraftKings is really what has me interested. You're looking at Carolina, 4th most fantasy of points allowed to the position, and running backs against Carolina every week. We kind of talked about this last week, and Ronald Jones got 192 yards against them. Now, he did have that huge 98-yard, I believe, breakaway run on them, which really helped out his day. But that just gives you a sense on what kind of production this team is allowing to running backs. It's really just incredible. And I mean, he turned over the role to Swift, and now he's back in it. It's Adrian Peterson. I mean, he is old, but this is father time, right? He's just been incredible. Kevin, godfather of the show and godfather of TFA, he brought up the point that Kerryon Johnson could also be in play here, and I don't mind that because they've been gashed by the run, but also terrible against pass catching backs as well too. Allowing top 5, in the targets, receptions, and yards category. So Kerryon Johnson makes for an interesting play, as he'll see no ownership. But do like Peterson if he's going to be the lead back there and taking control. Let's get into wide receivers here, as I am getting long-winded as I usually do on these videos. I got two guys I want to talk about, and then we'll get into tight end. So let's go to Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is 6,100 on DraftKings, 6,400 on FanDuel. This passing attack for the Steelers has been absolutely incredible. I mean, there's really not a bad play when you're looking at these guys. Deontay Johnson, 5,900 on DraftKings. Juju Smith-Schuster, 6,400 on DraftKings, and then Chase Claypool comes in the middle there. And Juju, he's been having some strong games, really strong floor games, and the red zone targets have been interesting. We kind of think of Chase Claypool as the red zone target, but in the past 3 weeks, Juju has 6, Claypool has 5, but you're looking at the rushing attempts at red zones as well too, and Claypool has 4 red zone rushes to go along with 2 touchdowns rushing as well in the red zone. And so you're looking at the outside. I think Sidney Jones will be rotating between Deontay and Claypool. You can't shadow these guys. So at points, Deontay or Claypool, they're going to be matched up against Chris Claybooks. And this secondary for Jacksonville has been absolutely atrocious, just giving up plays in bunches. I mean, look at what Adams was able to take advantage of them last week. Valdez-Scantling got loose against this team last week in what should have been, a win game. And I just feel like Roethlisberger is going to be able to target all these guys. And so I think Deontay is going to be popular because he's the cheaper one. I think the second most popular might be Juju because of the floor that he offers. And so that could get people off Chase Claypool. So I really like him on both sides there. I mean, you have to be considering a Steelers pass catcher into your lineups at this week just because of what they've been able to achieve and the matchup. And another wide receiver that I want to talk about here is Robbie Anderson. Now, this really kind of hedges on Bridgewater playing, because if Bridgewater isn't out there, I really don't like Robbie Anderson. I would probably go to one of the Dallas guys, either Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb, who have just been, seeing production still, even with these backup guys. And when Dalton was the quarterback, they were, double-digit targets is what they were seeing. But let's look at Robbie Anderson, who's really just had, he's due for touchdown regression. Everybody's been talking about it week after week after week, but hasn't seen a touchdown, I believe, in 9 straight weeks now, which is just crazy. And you're looking at the numbers that he's still putting up. It's ridiculous. He comes in at a $6K price tag on DraftKings, 6,300 on FanDuel. And I've talked about it at nauseum, I feel like, on what the Detroit secondary has been allowing to wide receivers. I talk about it every week. Anthony Miller had a big game against them. Andy Isabella got 2 touchdowns against them. Emmanuel Sanders, Ridley, and Julio, and then I talked about Jefferson, and then we had McLaurin last week, who went for 7 and 95. And so you're looking at that, and you think the floor is pretty safe as long as Bridgewater's out there. I mean, that's really what it kind of hedges on. And I really just think he's just not way underpriced, but it just seems like he's due to kind of pop off here, as he's been getting, 15 against Kansas City, 13 against New Orleans, 11 against Chicago, 22 against Atlanta, without he's scoring a touchdown because he was hitting the bonus. So if we can get a big game here from Robbie Anderson with no ownership, I really do like the play. And then lastly, let's talk about tight end as we round this out. It's tight ends ugly this week, but you look at Austin Hooper here, 3,900 on DraftKings, 5,100 on FanDuel. On FanDuel, you're playing Taysom Hill. I mean, I don't know how you don't play a quarterback who's getting the tight end designation there. But on DraftKings, 3,900 here. I think Dallas Goedert, he's 3,800. He'll be semi-popular. I think popularity for TJ Hawkinson, who's been a favorite of mine on the show to kind of talk about there. He's 4,200, and with no Galladay or Amendola, you can see why that makes a lot of sense. But Hooper's going under the radar, and you look at last week, ran a route on 82% of Baker's dropbacks was a stat that I saw on Sharp Football Analysis. And the Philadelphia secondary or defense, I guess, has allowed the 4th most DraftKings points, 6th most FanDuel points to opposing tight ends. And before the appendectomy that Hooper got, he was seeing, a good fair target share in this offense, putting up double-digit points on DraftKings in a couple of those weeks there, heading into that week where he had to miss because of that. So love that he's back on the field. Love that he's, running routes at a lot now being back on the field. And at the 3,900 price tag, you're just looking for a cheap play, right, that can score a touchdown. So if he falls into a touchdown, you'll be good. That is going to do it there. As I said, long-winded. I usually try and get this in 50 minutes or under, but appreciate you guys sticking around. If you did stick around for the whole video, week 11, TFA DFS top low owned plays. Wish you guys the best of luck tomorrow. Go get that money, get on the leaderboards. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you are following DJ Nation on Twitter at DJ Nation Pod. Make sure you are following the TFA on Twitter at FF_authority. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week in week 12 for that slate. Until then, get this money. Peace.